Today we're adding another upgrade to the upgrade series for the Action Army AAC-C1 or Athena, both the enforced magnetic base and the enforced spring guide. Now for starters, I would like to mention that these were both kindly sent to me by Action Army for testing. Thank you to them, and these are going to be my real opinions. I just wanted to get that out of the way first. If for some reason you have yet to see the video where we fully field tested and unboxed this thing, we installed this really crazy M4 style charging handle. We tested out some different power-up options for our CO2 chambers and even a way to hold them on the back of our stock. Speaking of the stock, we even upgraded the thicker butt pad. It's been a fun series. Let's get to these two new products. So we have the enforced spring guide and the enforced magnetic base. Now, this sniper, if you don't know already, functions a little bit different than the standard bolt action sniper. This is either a gas chambered sniper, a CO2 chamber sniper, or a spring sniper. And we haven't got to the spring part yet. We'll get to that upgrade in a little bit. The way that I want you to imagine these products is this would be just like your regular spring guide for any sniper, except this one is super tiny, and there's a reason for that. That's because we're not using the spring power to push the BB out of the barrel. We're instead using gas power. So this just needs to hold this small spring that allows us to release our gas. I'll break the sniper down in a second when we install these, and I'll show you how it all functions a little bit better. This is your mock piston. Now, whereas the regular piston in a sniper would propel the BB forward by catching air in the cylinder, this guy is just designed to pull the magnetic CO2 or gas chamber back, and then when you release it, follow it forwards. So it's just kind of like to carry the CO2 chamber. Now, when we upgrade a lot of spring guides in regular snipers, there's a couple things that they do. One, sometimes a thicker spring guide base plate will reduce over travel on the bolt before you get caught on the sear, and also reduce the amount of wiggle room and space between the spring and the spring guide. Obviously, this is going to be steel reinforced. The one on the inside there is plastic. I don't think it's a part that's going to take all that much wear anyway, so I don't think that's something we have to keep an eye out for. But we are going to test those other two things that we spoke about and see if that makes any difference. We'll take a look at that when we pull this guy out. Now, with the enforced magnetic base, I will say that this is, I believe, metal in comparison to that one being plastic. And something that I would imagine is it's going to offer a little bit more strength. Now, I'm also interested to see if it reduces the amount of play inside of the cylinder. I don't know if it's going to. Maybe the magnet is going to be stronger on this guy. Maybe the chamber is going to allow less wiggle room on the inside for the spring and the spring guide. So I'm interested to see how that works. Obviously, they fit nice and snug together, but that's not what we're going to take a look at. Why don't we strip down the sniper? Quickly, before we do strip it down, I want to show you how this works. So obviously, there is your CO2 chamber, and there is your magnetic base that we were talking about before. It pulls the chamber back into place, and then when we push it forward, it keeps the chamber back in the rear of the cylinder. When we pull the trigger, it releases that forward, pushing gas out of the barrel and releasing a small little button on the inside of this guy. Again, I'll show that to you in a second. I just want to see what the over travel looks like on this guy. So we're going to pull this guy back, and you'll see when we connect onto the sear. There. Okay, so we're on the sear. This is the over travel. You see how much room we have? I don't know if it's going to change it, but sometimes increasing the size of the spring guide will obviously decrease the amount of over travel we have of the bolt. When it comes to disassembling this platform, it's very reminiscent of any of your VSR spec platforms. There's going to be 3 different screws that we're going to have to pull out, and they are unfortunately different sizes. There's one just behind the trigger, and that is just a little bit too large. There we go. And we can go ahead and unscrew that guy. Just remember where you put them, because they are different lengths and different sizes. You don't want to mix that up when you are putting that back together. We're not all the way out yet. It's not as simple like something like the TAC-41 or the SRS, but that's just typical now with a lot of the VSR spec platforms. I know from watching some videos, some of the new Novrich ones are a little bit easier to get the cylinder out. And then this screw up in the front is going to be a slightly different size. So we'll just Check that out. Try this one. That seems to be a snug fit. And make sure you don't strip these, otherwise you're never getting them out. Okay. Now the entire lower should split apart from the upper receiver. Be careful, because now there is a pin that we're going to have to remove. It's just right here. You see where those arrows are? If you pull this guy out, and then flip it over, and the last thing we need to do is remove both of these screws, and that's going to pull the little bar out that holds the bolt in place. I think that should be the right size. Now, I would recommend always Loctiting these in place. I just never did because I knew that I'd be taking this apart a handful of times. But once I'm ready to field it completely at a game, I'm going to Loctite a bunch of this stuff in place. Alrighty. And like I said, the bolt should just slide right out. Next, let's just go ahead and take off the nozzle. And then out the front should come your CO2 chamber, your magnetic base, your spring, and spring guide. Now, if you take a look how the whole thing works, when assembled, it looks like this. Inside of the chamber, when you pull the entire chamber back into place, the mock piston or the magnetic base is going to stick onto the sear. It pulled that entire chamber back. Now what it's going to do when we pull the trigger is release that sear and toss the chamber forward, pushing some gas out the front of the nozzle, compressing that button. It's a little hard to compress. See that? Because obviously this is our stronger one. But it's a super cool system. And like I said, it's magnetic. I just want to see what the differences are between both the upgrades and the stock options. So we'll take a look at the spring guide first. The spring guide, there is no wiggle room with the base, right? And up at the front, there's a little bit more wiggle room, a little wobbly. The upgraded base appears to be the same thickness at the base as the stock one, and it just kind of just looks like it's made of metal. I mean, obviously it's rounder up at the top, and it's instead of this small little rubber piece at the base that's going to help keep the spring stabilized, that's around that X shape, so it's kind of deformed. This one is completely cylindrical, so I wonder if that'll have any better stabilization. It's around the same. Obviously that steel reinforced is going to be stronger. Definitely something that's cool. Essential, I'm not sure. And then the magnetic base around the spring, it's actually a pretty snug fit. There's little wiggle room inside of the base as well. Again, same thing, little wiggle room, besides obviously side to side. There's very little wiggle room there. The bases themselves, opposed to it being this just chunk of plastic and then a magnet jammed in the front with what looks like some sort of either pot metal or aluminum on the outside, this guy is going to be steel, I believe. It's got these cool little ribs on the side, and then I guess to smoothen the travel, it's also got this like Teflon ring, this plastic ring on the outside, so it helps reduce any scratching on the inside of the cylinder. You can see this guy in the track. Try and get a good look for you. It's a nice snug fit in there, actually. It's not like it's loose by any means. And the same with this one too. It's pretty snug all the way around. This thing will take a little bit of a beating, so I imagine obviously that's going to be better steel. Let's take a look at the magnets. Are they the same? Yeah, they're the same magnet too. So obviously you are getting a little bit higher quality material here. I think that this is going to help smoothen the travel of the piston a ton more. But other than that, I think it's reinforced. This connects onto the sear, so I imagine over time this would start to wear down. This is not going to have that problem because it's metal. Why don't we reinstall these parts, and then I'll put the entire sniper back together. I'll let you see installing these parts though, because obviously these are the upgrades. Toss that guy back into place. Going to want to make sure that the spring is up inside of there. We'll toss our chamber up on the front. And then we're just going to screw the nozzle back in place. All right. Probably a good idea to grab a pair of like needle nose pliers and screw that in the rest of the way. But I'm going to leave it for now just because I'm not going to fire it too much because I do have another upgrade that I'm going to be installing on this thing. I'm going to put it all back together just so I can do it really quickly because you can just reverse engineer it and then we'll take a look at it while it's inside of the replica. Out with the old, in with the new. A couple things I want to take a look at first. Does it function? Pulls it back into place, holds it where it needs to be, and it fires beautifully. I don't think there's going to be much change in the over travel. Yeah, like I mentioned, again, that's not something that's a problem with any snipers. It's just, it's there. If you notice it and you're kind of a nutcase, it might bother you. But all in all, it's not a huge issue. It's not going to cause any function problems, so that's fine. It is cool. You can see it on the inside there. That's really sweet. As for the upgrades, what do I think? I think they're high quality. I think that they are made very, very well. Are they absolutely essential? I don't know if long-term, if you're going to have problems from this guy. I have fired this thing probably close to 500, 600 times now, and I have seen little to no wear on the outside of the plastic one. And the spring guide is just fine. I don't know if that would cause any problems later on in the future. It's not really a part that's under a whole lot of tension or has a whole lot of abuse to it, so it's hard to say. If you're like me and you're someone who's going to likely try and upgrade every single part on the inside of anything, and you just like to upgrade things for the fun of tinkering and knowing that it's there, sure, great idea. Is it essential? Well, I don't know. It is a cheap sniper, so if you're going to throw any upgrades into it, it can definitely be a fun little project for you. But like I said, long term, will you need the upgrades? Probably not. Is it something that's there in case you want to? Yeah. Does it look cool? Yeah. Are they made well? Yeah. So, just food for thought. Thank you, Action Army, for sending it out. This is our first, I think, internal upgrade for this thing, which is really cool. So that's awesome. And I have a really crazy video on this thing coming out soon. We are actually going to convert this to a spring sniper, and I've heard that it is one of the quietest snipers that you can shoot in Airsoft. So that'll be really fun. Stay tuned. I'll catch you in the next adventure. Let me know what you think of this upgrade. Peace.